Pecco Bagnaia spent this whole season telling us the Ducati had abandoned him. No rear grip, no feel. A bike that slipped away every time he leaned on it. And then, in the quiet opening of the summer break, with no fanfare, a two-time world champion slipped into a clinic in Modena and had his right forearm cut open. The same arm that holds the bike. The same arm that feels everything he spent a year and a half saying the Ducati stole from him. So which part of him actually failed this season, the machine or the man? And why did we only ever hear about one of them? This is not a rough patch. This is a collapse with a countdown on it. Bagnaia sits 8th in a championship he has won twice, 65 points behind Jorge Martin, in a farewell year that Ducati has already ended for him. They confirmed his exit weeks ago. Pedro Acosta takes his seat alongside Marc Marquez for 2027. And Bagnaia walks to Aprilia, inheriting the exact seat the man leading the championship is about to vacate. So this surgery does not just interrupt a title fight he was losing. It lands on the one part of the story everyone assumed was solid. To see why it is so awkward, you have to go back to what he said over and over since March. Go back through this season, and his explanation never moved. From the first race, it was the rear of the bike, not him. Never him. My issue from the start of the season is rear grip, he told Crash after Germany, and he had been saying versions of it for months. At the Sachsenring, he went further. He said he had completely zero grip at the rear. I feel on ice, he said. I feel I'm doing flat track, so it's very difficult to be competitive. Then he pushed the blame one layer deeper, past the setup, into the software, calling it a problem from the electronics that is not working well. And the real tell, the line everyone should have leaned into, was how long he said it had lasted. You have to think a lot while riding it, he said. And it's been like that for a year and a half. A year and a half. Now count backward from the operating table. A year and a half before that surgery lands you in early 2025. Right about when Marc Marquez walked into the other half of his garage and started beating him at will. The feel started leaving, by Bagnaia's own clock, at almost the exact moment the pressure arrived. Every word of it still pointed at the machine. Not one word pointed at the arm. Now here is what actually happened over the break. On a Wednesday, while the paddock was scattered on holiday, Bagnaia checked into the orthopedic clinic of the Policlinico di Modena. A team led by Professor Luigi Tarallo performed an endoscopic fasciotomy on his right forearm. Ducati's statement was short and clinical. The operation was completed successfully and without complications, it said, before noting he would now begin his scheduled recovery and rehabilitation. Scheduled. That one word does a lot of work. This was not an emergency. This was planned and quietly. And here is the part nobody wanted to say out loud. The condition behind that surgery has a name riders whisper more than they announce. Compartment syndrome. The forearm version is what the paddock calls arm pump. Under hard braking, the muscle swells inside a sheath that will not stretch. The blood flow chokes off, and the forearm turns to concrete. You lose strength. You lose precision. You lose feel. The exact currency Bagnaia spent a year and a half telling us the Ducati had taken from him. It is one of the most common blades a rider goes under in this sport, and one of the least announced, because it fixes the machine nobody wants to admit is breaking, the rider. Now sit with the overlap. Arm pump does not attack the rear tyre. It attacks the rider's hands, his front end feel, his ability to hold the bike and read what it is doing underneath him. It is not the same axis as rear grip, and I want to be fair about that, but it is the same word, feel. For 18 months, the story was that the bike could not tell him what the rear was doing. What none of us knew was that the instrument reading the bike, his own right arm, may have been failing at the same time. So how much of I can't feel the rear was the Ducati, and how much was a forearm that could not hold on hard enough to be sure? He named the bike, the electronics, the tyre, the setup, everything except the limb he quietly booked a surgeon to open. Then look at the shape of his season. One sprint win, a stack of third places, Not a single Sunday victory from a two-time champion. A rider who showed pace early and faded as the race stretched long, which is the exact window when a forearm full of concrete stops telling you the truth. Is that a bike giving up grip over race distance, or an arm giving up its owner? And this is where the whole season reframes, because the surgery does not just add a fact, it changes what the complaints were. For a year and a half, we heard a man describe a machine problem. What we may have been hearing was a man describing a symptom and reaching for the nearest cause that did not implicate his own body. That is not lying. Riders do it constantly. The bike is a safe thing to blame. The body is not, because the body has an expiry date, and every rival is reading you for weakness. So he talked about grip. He talked about electronics. He kept the arm off the record until the season was already lost, and the break was long enough to bury the recovery. People thought this was a story about a Ducati that betrayed its champion. It might really be a story about a champion who could not admit in public that the betrayal was partly internal. That reframes every zero grip line from this year. It does not erase the Ducati's problems, because plenty of data says the bike is genuinely difficult to ride. But it means the excuse and the injury were living in the same body, on the same bike, at the same time. And we only ever got told about one of them. So what is he actually doing now? He is targeting Silverstone, 3 weeks after a surgeon cut into his forearm, rehab permitting. A two-time world champion wants to be back on the bike, hauling that same arm through the fastest, most physical direction changes on the calendar. Think about what that gamble admits. He is 8th. The title is gone and everyone knows it. Ducati has already handed his seat to Acosta. He is risking a barely closed arm to salvage results that no longer move the standings on a bike he has already agreed to leave. That is not a title run. That is a man defending a story. There is nothing left to protect except the one thing the surgery quietly threatened, the idea that it was the bike all along. If he comes back at Silverstone and the grip is suddenly there, the story writes itself. And it is not the story he told all year. If he comes back and struggles again, then the arm was never the whole answer, and the Ducati really did break him. Either way, he loses a version of himself he has been protecting since March. That is the real stake at Silverstone. Not points, not the championship. The last standing explanation for the worst season of his career, and whether his own right arm just quietly disproved it. He blamed the bike for a feel he lost. The arm he just had opened suggests the loss was partly his own. So which one really cost him this season? The Ducati or the body holding it? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.